Hello, beautiful people. It has been a very long time since I made my last video. And in the second part of that video, like the last third or fourth of it, I had stepped out of my car, and I tell you what, it was really cold. When I turned off the recording, man, my hands were freezing. Anyway, folks, this is my long delayed follow-up video about what it means to seek God's kingdom. And I'll probably, this might be the last, or it might be one more, but so I'll try to keep it short and sweet. So the last video, I just sort of acknowledged how people like myself living in America are kind of infused with this culture, this mentality that it's a very independent, individualistic mindset that doesn't really naturally grasp what Jesus is calling people to do, to seek God's kingdom. Because Americans are built on the foundation of the culture that we grow up in is built on rebellion against kingship and royalty, and particularly the throne of England when the colonies revolted and fought for independence. And I wanted to very clearly state here that America, without a doubt, objectively and in my opinion, is an incredibly great country. I would imagine just about every American would agree with me, the greatest country in the world, and very possibly many people around the world would say it is the greatest country in the world. Although some people may disagree around the world. So anyway, it's indisputably a great country historically, and I hope it lasts for many centuries and only gets better. But I do believe America could have been a better country if it had a foundation built, a more righteous foundation. And I don't really have time to get into that. What I wanted to talk about is the flip side of what I said last time. I just wanted to clearly establish that the average American does not have an intuitive sense of what it means to submit to a king, to give up our rights, to grant rights to us, to surrender, ourselves to somebody else to have rights over us, which is what a king does. And in the context of seeking God's kingdom is to say, God, I surrender all my rights to you. You have rights over me. Jesus has all rights over me. And that doesn't mean that we surrender ourselves to any kind of oppressive or abusive power, because Jesus is the exact opposite, and I shared that last video. So here's what I wanted to really present today, which is a great irony, is that in America, there is indisputable evidence that we cannot resist this desire for a king. And I will give the evidence. So, and I'm primarily going to focus on music. So throughout centuries, really, there are musicians, whether they're composers or instrumentalists or singers, mainly singers, I would say, in the context of our, what we're most familiar with, who we crown. We crown them as royalty. I'm sure, you are able to probably identify many people as, as good examples or better examples than the ones I'm going to mention. Although I'm going to mention some biggies. So here's an obvious one. Michael Jackson, king of pop. Elvis Presley, king of rock and roll. I believe it was B.B. King, king of the blues. And, it's interesting because each of these musicians, and, Queen, they're queens as well. They're divas, right? But they're like queens of pop. I actually don't know who is the queen of pop, but I can't name her. I mainly think of like male singers. But because I'm a musician and, those are the people I, for whatever reason, have identified with most. Not identified with, actually, I think of. So, this is a very rough cut, by the way, obviously. But I've been thinking about this content for a very, very, very long time, for months and months. So it's all, the stuff is here. It's just I may lay it out on the table a little bit disorganized. Anyhow, let me give an example. Well, actually, let me highlight. So, like B.B. King, king of the blues. It's interesting how each of these sort of crowned musicians, crowned by Americans, provide something for the one who looks to them with this admiration. So B.B. King sort of channeled this blues, this mourning, this sorrow. That's what blues does. It helps us to connect with, times are rough. There's some country songs about this. There's a great country song about being in debt. And yeah, you could probably think of the king of country. So that's B.B. King, kind of channels our sorrows. There's also Prince. I'm not as familiar with Prince's work, but so like Elvis Presley, king of rock and roll. Well, he just had a vibrancy like a eternal youth, didn't he? Same with Michael Jackson. Kind of like this sense of eternally vital and youthful and energetic and such. So, but their music, the thing is that their music does something. It's almost therapeutic. It's kind of that's what I meant by channeling. They say the things that we have a hard time saying. They sing the things that we have a hard time expressing, that maybe we even have a hard time putting a name to. Okay, whether it's love or joy or sorrow or anger. And so, but these men are just men. These women are just women. They're mortal. They actually, most of these people do not bear up under the weight of this sort of deification very well. This royalty. They kind of buckle under it. The pressure, the expectation, to be eternally youthful, to be eternally energetic, to be eternally, beautiful, all these different things. And so, and to try to carry sort of the burdens of all their fans, the emotional burdens and admiration, the adoration of all their fans. It's too much. A lot of these people spiral into, insomnia and drug use, self-medication, and it's very much part of that scene, the entertainment scene, actually, whether it's Hollywood or, music, is very common. The alcoholism and the drug use, all kinds of other things. But what I'm focusing on is the inability to bear under the weight of all the expectation that's put on them to be this icon for their fans. So Americans really have not fully rejected kingship and royalty. What they've rejected is this political system that at the time they perceived as unfair from England. And I'm not going to restate what I said last time, but what I really want to emphasize is this: we're almost unable to resist this urge to have a king, to exalt people who we can look up to and admire, who are going to save us. So I hope that piece of evidence kind of helps us to recognize that part of us that does have an intuitive sense for our need for kingship. And that's what Jesus did. He came not to judge, but to save, he said. He came to heal us. He came to free us. He came to lift us up and redeem us. And so I want to give an example here. Tell a little story. So there's a woman by the name of Lori Lieberman. And she had just come out of a rough breakup. I don't know, I think it was with a fiance. So she was really depressed, and her friend said, "Lori, come on, let's go out." Lori's like, I don't want to go out. I just want to be home. And she was just depressed and sad. And her friend just insisted. So finally she said, okay. So she went to like a club or something, or a place where there was like a venue where there was music being played, and they're sitting at their tables set up, and you can get something to drink or eat or whatever. So they're in there, and she sits near the back because she just kind of doesn't want to be there. She's just really down. And so there's this young man on stage who starts playing the guitar. And he starts playing a song called Empty Chairs, which was also about a breakup or somebody leaving, right? Empty chairs, like there's this empty chair, this person left me, and it's all about this empty chair. So it's a man with guitar, and his name is Don McLean. Well, you may know Don McLean. He wrote a song called Bye Bye American Pie. That's what he's probably one of the most famous songs, one of his most famous songs. So here's Lori listening to this song, which is deeply resonating with her, having just come out of this painful breakup and loss. And she grabbed a napkin and started writing a poem. And this poem, in part of the poem, she was just expressing how, well, she actually was kind of shrinking in her chair. She didn't want to be seen, because she felt like this song was exposing her in front of all these people. Sorry if it's a little windy. And so anyway, she wrote these lyrics, and then she had I can't remember the relationship, but there's a couple guys. I think she might have worked with them, but one of them was a lyricist. I think the other one was a musician who wrote the music. And anyway, they collaborated together, and with the help of these two musicians, she was a musician as well, she's a singer. With the help of these two musicians, they wrote the song. And the song is called Killing Me Softly. And you guys may know the song. So let's see if I can get the right note, okay? And I'm going to change the words around. So, me singing about, imagining I'm hearing this young lady playing a guitar, okay? I heard she sang a good song. I heard she had a style. So I came to see her and listen for a while. And there she was, this lady, a stranger to my eyes, strumming my pain with her fingers. singing my life with a song, killing me softly with her song, killing me softly with her song, telling my whole life with her words, killing me softly with a song. I felt all flushed with fever, embarrassed by the crowd. I felt she found my letters and read each one out loud. I prayed that she would finish, but she just kept right on, strumming my pain with her fingers, telling my life with her words, killing me softly with her song, killing me softly with her song, telling my whole life with her words, killing me softly with a song. La, oh, 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 la, 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 oh, 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 killing me softly with a song. Well, there is another verse, but I never memorized it, so that's it. But guys, that song, think about that song. There's this woman listening who's just grieving a loss. And she's listening to a man who's singing about grieving a loss. And he is saying the words, he's singing the words, the pain that she's feeling. That's what these kings and queens, these princes, these crowned princes and kings and queens of our culture do for us. Why do we love them so much? Because they're representing us. They're almost performing like this priestly duty for us. Okay? Taking us, bringing us before reality, the universe, whatever it is, right? And letting the whole world know vicariously what we're struggling with. And that's what Jesus does. He takes us before the King of the God of the universe, the Creator. The Son brings us before the Father. And that is why, my friends, we should seek God's kingdom. Because we can't help it. If we don't seek God's kingdom, we are going to fall into some other kingdom. We're going to make somebody our king. We're going to make an imitation king, a mortal king and queen and prince, whatever you want to call it. We're going to crown somebody or chase somebody who's already wearing that cultural crown. And we're going to think they're going to save us. We may already think we're some kind of royalty ourselves over our little kingdoms. But we're going to chase after these people because we're going to think they're greater, they're better, they can say what I can't say, and they can bring comfort and healing to me. But guys, they are going to fall. All of these cultural crowned individuals are going to get crushed under the weight. And not all of these celebrities ended in tragedy, okay? But those who didn't, for the most part, understood what was going on. And they recognized and they said, I am not a king. I am not a god. I am not an idol. Let me give an example. If you're a Christian and you listen to contemporary Christian music, for example, or, maybe you don't. But if you're a Christian, let me mention a very well-known at the time Christian singer who to some people is still well-known. His name is Keith Green. Keith Green was incomparable and is incomparable. I don't know of any other musician but specifically Christian musician like him. Every song was about as deeply personal as you can imagine, and at the same time, prophetic. Very powerful music. And he was a musician, actually, since he was a little boy. You could see him on old black and white TV shows and such. But he became a Christian in maybe his late teens, I can't remember. Early 20s, perhaps. But anyhow, he became this singer, Green with a E at the end, I believe. And at his concerts, he would do concerts, and in between songs, he would speak to the crowd and minister to them, But he said once, and I wish I had it pulled up in front of me. He said he basically scolded his audience, and he said, these Christian singers who are trying to minister to you, like himself, they're trying to be humble. They're trying to point you to God. They're trying to point you to Jesus as the one to follow and worship and adore and admire and be excited about and idolize. He says, but you won't do that. You idolize the musician. You idolize the Christian musician, and you basically ruin them. And you make it hard for them to be humble. And he's like, you Christian fans are just as bad as fans in the world. You're putting these Christian musicians on a pedestal. Now, a man like Keith Green is not easily subject to being crushed under the weight of his popularity and adoration, because he pushed back. He pushed back hard. And, there's nothing wrong with admiring somebody, If God wants to use them and use their life and their talents to bring that to people and their fans and followers, that's awesome. But do those people have the conviction that Keith Green did to draw the line and say, I am not going to be your king. I refuse to let you put a crown on me. I'm a servant, and I'm a servant of the king. So, guys, I may have one more follow-up video on this, but I may have some other videos before that final video. So anyway, I hope this has made you think a little bit. Boy, there was something I was going to say about Keith Green. Oh, I did want to say he sadly, tragically died very young. He had, I think, maybe 4 or 5 children, and he was in a small plane with maybe 2 or 3 of them. And his wife, Melody, I think had maybe 1 or 2 children. I can't remember, back on the ground, and he died in a plane crash. Very, very tragic. So very young. Left a widow and a couple, maybe 1 or 2 children or something like that. But that is it, guys. I hope you're well. Please think about this. When Jesus says, seek God's kingdom, and all these things will be given to you. Everything you need to live a life, a full life. Peace.